Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Business Unboxed with your host Kelly, a chartered accountant now. This is the last episode for the year, so we've made it through 2024 and this is probably the most consistent I've ever been on the podcast. So if you have been subscribed for a wee while, you'll know that I have been doing this for a few years now, and that a majority of the time while I have been doing this podcast, I actually have been studying. So I actually did my degree and then I went and did my CA study. So now I'm a CA, which is a chartered accountant. And so this was the first full year, really, I think, that I wasn't studying. So I have tried to keep up with fortnightly posting, and next year might be a little bit different. Might be a wee bit more frequent maybe. But yes, so this is the last one. I think I only missed a couple when I was quite ill a couple months ago now. So other than that, we've been pretty consistent. So I hope that if you have been here for the year, that you've enjoyed the content that we've put out and that you follow or subscribe and look forward to what we have coming next year, which will be same kind of thing but a wee bit different also. So we will be touching on the same type of topics. We will be keeping with the entrepreneurship stuff and the business stuff, and we just want to talk about anything business related essentially. But we will also be talking about me and potentially my co-hosts, maybe new co-hosts, business lives and growing businesses and our own personal experiences. And so you'll be able to kind of follow along with that a little bit more. And so I'm hoping that you guys will like that. I think you will. I think you'll get a lot more value out of a good conversation over a topic as opposed to just me talking about something on my own. So yes, very exciting stuff. Anywho, this episode being the last for 2024, I just wanted to kind of recap a couple of key things that I learned this year and just kind of talk about those on a casual basis, and then maybe you can kind of relate to them on a business perspective, personal perspective. It all goes hand in hand really, because people run businesses, people are employed in businesses, so we're all in the same. And so yeah, that's what we want to talk about today. So the first thing is surrounding yourself with people that are kind of like-minded or similar to you. They do say that how you act and what you do is a direct reflection of the people that you keep closest to you, and I am a firm believer of that. If you are around negative people, you'll slowly kind of morph into a negative person. But on the flip side of that, if you are able to and are lucky enough to surround yourself with positive people and people that are like-minded and want to solve problems and are in that business space with you, then you are going to do so much better because you're surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded. And so we have touched on networking in one of the episodes kind of recently, I think. And so, you know, that's a perfect way of surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded, that are business orientated like you. Even just surrounding yourself with a supportive partner, supportive family members, and having that community around you that you can talk to and share ideas with and collaborate on things with. Like, I don't know for you guys, but for me, I do find it hard to work on a business idea by myself. So if I have ideas of things, quite often I will share that with somebody in my circle and get their feedback on it, get their ideas on it. They might be thinking of the same thing but from a different angle, and so we can combine our ideas and make something even bigger. And so yeah, it's kind of really important to have that. You then also become a better business owner if you share or have a connections with other business owners, because you'll learn things from them, you can teach them things, they'll like that give and take kind of relationship. So definitely surround yourself with people that are kind of like-minded for you. Find your people, and that will definitely help you on your business journey and personal development too. Like, you don't want to be stuck. If you're somebody that likes personal growth and development, which this podcast is also about, and then your partner or your direct circle are people that don't want to do that, like, they're not going to help you get better if they're not also trying to get better themselves. So that's something that I've really appreciated more this year. Yes, I've learned it. It's just something that, I've really seen the value in this year particularly, and really have tried to do a bit more of, and just bring in that circle a wee bit closer to the people that are really like me, and just try and push out and move away from the people that were kind of not giving me the energy that I wanted. Another thing that I have learned this year is that sometimes change is necessary, even if you aren't quite ready for change. And this kind of goes hand in hand with, if you aren't happy, you need to change something. So as you guys would know, I think I've talked about it, I recently went through a job change. So I am a full-time employee. I do have projects on the side that I work on, the podcast being one of those, and I have had businesses in the past. And so one of the things recently was changing jobs, and I wasn't happy in my role, and I wasn't happy with my employment, but I also felt quite settled where I was, and I didn't quite feel like I was ready to make that change, but I also wasn't happy. And so there was kind of that push-pull of, I know that probably change is going to be better for me, and I know I need to do it, but also I don't quite feel like I'm ready to let this chapter of my life go. And so one thing that I've learned this year is, even if you aren't quite ready, or it doesn't feel quite right in that moment, if deep down you know that it's going to be better for you, even if you know that it's going to be a tough decision to make, if you aren't happy but it's kind of comfortable, you do need to push yourself out of that comfort zone and actually get yourself to a place where you are happy. That's very important. I have to say, my mindset and my mental health has definitely increased a lot over the last 2 months since I have changed positions and jobs, which has been fantastic. Like, I am so much more happier. I don't have as much stress or anxiety as I did in my previous role, and I'm still, because I didn't feel quite ready to leave, but I kind of felt like I just needed to do it. I'm still kind of finding that settleness still in my new role, where it doesn't still feel 100% like it's real, to be honest, because it is exactly what I wanted, and it's very different to what I was doing. And because I didn't feel like I was ready to make that move, I was quite happy where I was. Not happy in myself, but like, it was a very easy role, you could say. I was quite used to doing it. It was kind of robotics. Like, I didn't really have to think too much. Like, it was just, it was kind of like a simple, easy thing to do, but I was not happy there. And because I've made a change to something completely different, it has taken my mindset a little bit to get used to this brand new normal, because that old normal was something that I had for so long. It was very much routine. I knew what I was doing and everything, and then you've gone to something completely different that you don't have any experience in, and it is quite a jump. So it has taken me a bit to warm up to, but if there's one thing that I've learned in this process is, I wasn't happy, I needed to make the change, and I had to go outside of my comfort zone to make that change. Sometimes when we think of not being happy, we instantly think that making that change is going to be within our comfort zone, because how can it not be if you're not happy? Like, how could that not be doing something good? But if you're comfortable in that unhappiness because you've been there for so long, then obviously it's still going outside of your comfort zone to go to job interviews and talk to people that you don't know and have to sell yourself and when you haven't done that for a long time, it is quite different, and you do have to put yourself out there and experience something new and do something different. But if you want to do, and it's going to make you happy, and definitely in my instance it definitely has, then you just know that you have to push through the uncomfortableness to get to the position where you're happier. So yes, that's kind of the next kind of thing that I definitely learned this year, was that sometimes you just got to be uncomfortable and go through that change to come out the other side knowing that you weren't happy here and you're going to be happy here, but this middle bit isn't always comfortable to go from unhappy to happy. Sometimes you've got to go through a little bit of discomfort to get to the good place at the end, kind of thing. The next thing is, I don't want people to hold back, or I've learned that I can't hold back or think that I'm not good enough for something. So when I was looking to change roles because I wasn't happy, I did want to do something that I had not properly done before. And so obviously in doing that, you have to apply for jobs that you don't really have the experience or knowledge on. And that was, in my instance, I was looking at roles that I kind of have touched on some of the things that they talk about in the job description, but I had never really done that before. So for context, I was going from management accounting to financial systems accounting or systems accounting. So two very different types of accounting. One's back-end technology and one's like front-end forecasting, budgeting, looking at the numbers and analysing them. And so very different things. So even though I'd done some process improvement and I kind of liked the tech side of things in my management accountant role, going to a full role in that space is something that I had not really done proper experience on. And I didn't really, because I was using the technology over this side, you can't really have the access to use and change it because, you know, internal controls and all that kind of stuff. If you are in the business world, you'll know that you can't have, you know, somebody entering the invoices and then being able to change this and do this at the back end too, because it opens it up for all kinds of things to happen. So as I was using it, I wasn't able to get that real back end experience. And in here, like a lot of my work is that back end, fixing problems, digging into things. So very different. And so the thing that I kind of learned is, look, I didn't have all of the experience that they listed in the job description, but I did have relevant experience touching on a handful of those things, and I knew that I had the knowledge and I knew that I would really like it because I'd done a lot of research into that kind of role, and over my CA study I did technology stuff, and during my mentorship I also pick the technology side of things, so I kind of knew that I liked that. And so even though I didn't have that experience, I could have read that job description and I could have gone, I don't have that experience, so I'm going to not apply because I'm not going to get it. But instead, I thought, you know what? What's the worst that's going to happen? I'm not going to get the job. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to apply anyway. I've got maybe half the kind of experience touched on-ish. So I applied for it anyway, and that's ended up being the job that I got. So if that's one other thing that I've learned this year is, don't sell yourself short. Don't think that you aren't good enough to do something. Put yourself out there. If you want something, go for it. Even if you think that you're not quite ready, you'll never really feel ready, to be honest. So that's something else I've learned this year. So I want you guys to take that on board, because honestly, sometimes going for something that you don't think you deserve and then getting it just makes you feel so much better about yourself. And also, if you really want it, you're going to be happier on the other side anyway. So definitely something that I've learned this year. And the last thing that I've learned this year is very much that work-life balance is very, very important. So I've always kind of had work-life balance, if you say like work, because I've always kind of stuck to my 9 to 5, although I kind of didn't do 9 to 5 hours, but I kind of started earlier and finished earlier because I was always studying. And so I kind of stuck to those hours after I finished studying this year. And this is my first kind of full year of being outside of study for a very long time. And so although work was always kind of that 8 to 8.5, 9 hours, like the standard, and then I'd come home, my at-home life was always busy with exams and assessments and workshops and whatnot. And so I never really truly got that work-life balance, because the life portion was still very much focused on the work side of my life. And so that's one thing that I've really appreciated this year, is coming out of that really busy time where I always had something to do in my personal life. Like I could never really truly relax. And so I was always kind of anxious 24/7, because you always knew that there was a next assignment, or you were waiting on a mark to come out and did I pass, or you had an exam to prep for and you were stressed about that. And then having all this time to do really absolutely nothing. I mean, I work on the podcast, I have businessy things on the side, but not really committing majorly to like 20 hours a week of something, you know what I mean? Like 10 to 20 hours of study essentially. Has really let me sink into this just absolutely nothingness, and I have absolutely enjoyed it. And so this whole year I really have taken the entire year to not overly commit myself to anything new, because I am somebody who in the past has overcommitted. Like I haven't really talked about pre the podcast life, but essentially I went into full-time work, into kind of almost full-time study hours as well. And then around the time that I started my study, I also started a business with my brother, and there was also another person as well. So it was 3 of us in the business, and I essentially started work, was in work for maybe like a year and a half, full-time work, started my study, and then also started a business at the same time. So then for like 2 to 2.5 years of my life, I was working full-time, almost pretty much studying a full-time equivalent of study, and also we were trying to grow a business. And so that went on for a few years, and then I got out of the business because I definitely was well and truly burnt out and needed out of that. So I got out of that business, and then I finished my study a few months later. But then within that year, I started my CA, and then CA was pretty intense. So that's the last few years of my life has been my CA study. And this year was kind of the first year where I haven't had all this extra stuff going on. And so having all this time to myself, I really felt that need to just not do anything, because in my first year, short kind of year break in between degree and CA, which wasn't quite a year, I did, by the end of that kind of almost like 9-10 months-ish, I felt like I was ready to put myself back into something. But this time round, because I went through a lot in the last 2-3 years of my CA, I'm coming up to that year mark, and I still don't really have a desire to overly commit myself. And I think that's because I had dug myself so deep down into the working hard and grinding and always being busy, and just completely and utterly burnt myself out, that this year I've learnt the value of making sure I do set enough time in my day, in my weekends, like afternoons and weekends, to do nothing. So if I do then pick up and start doing more business stuff and grow some of my ideas that I've got, like the podcast as well, like this is just once a fortnight, but if I want to make this potentially weekly going forward next year, and if I want to start other projects as well and build those up, I still need to build into my schedule this downtime, like at least an hour or two each night, and at least a number of hours every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, just for absolutely nothing. And by me nothing, I mean maybe watching a Netflix show, maybe scrolling on TikTok, maybe doing some online shopping, and then I have like my cleaning time outside of that for the house, and personal time to go out and, do Pilates class or go to golf or whatever it is that I'm doing. And so that's kind of the last major thing that I learned, is taking care of me and my downtime. And so that is where I'm going to wrap up this episode. So for 2024, the 4 kind of big things that I learned this year were: surround yourself with people that are like you, and that goes for business and personal life. Don't surround yourself with people that are negative, because they're only going to bring you down. Just surround yourself with those positive people that are like you, that want to bring you up, that want to help you get to where you want to go. 2, change is a good thing. Yes, it can be awkward and difficult and not comfortable going from being in a comfortable spot, even if you're unhappy, to going to that happy, comfortable spot. But you've got to go through this awkward uncomfortableness in the middle, and that's okay, because you are going to end up happier over here than what you ever were over here. So that's something that I've learned this year, and I hope that everybody else just goes through that awkward stage and doesn't let that hold them back to get to that happy spot. 3 is that don't ever think that you're not good enough or sell yourself short. If you know you'd be good at something, and if you want to pursue something, go for it. What's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to say no. So if that's the worst that's going to happen, you might as well go for it, because best case scenario is you get it and then you get exactly what you want. So that's lesson number 3, or the 3rd thing that I've learned this year. And the last thing is that rest and downtime are very much important, and no matter how many things you've got going on in your life, try to schedule in that absolute downtime nothingness, with however that looks for you. It could be knitting, it could be reading, it could be that you actually like to clean, and that's your downtime, as you put half an hour aside or 20 minutes aside each day to clean, because that's what you like to do, or video game, or whatever it is. Build that into your schedule, because it is so important for your mental health to have that gap between study, work, stressy kind of things, and then the absolute nothingness, and then your hobbies and everything on top of that. So those are the 4 things I've learned this year that I wanted to share with you guys for the final episode of 2024. I hope you guys have liked all the things that we've talked about this year. And if you want to see what we have in store for next year, which, trust me, it's very exciting, it's going to be so much better, there's going to be a lot of improvements for the podcast and what we talk about, then definitely subscribe and follow. Feel free to still comment on the YouTube video, or comment and share your ideas and thoughts on what you would like me or us to talk about in the future for next year, and we'll start creating a little list of topics. And I'll catch you guys in 2025 for the start of the 2025 season of Business Unboxed. And with that, I will say bye.